Hello students, I hope you're doing well. Let's talk about the Module 2 labs. So when you go into the Module 2 lab, and let me go there so I can demonstrate once again how you should be doing this, right? You want to not miss information. You should not be traveling through the course by simply using these tabs at the top. You should be using these tabs at the left and then going from page to page throughout the modules. So as I hope you have realized, when you go through the module information, you can use these arrows to just flip the pages like you are reading a book. Okay, and then when you leave the course and come back, you end up at the same exact page as you were on before. Okay, and then sometimes you find an assignment like this discussion thing and it pushes you out of that table of contents environment into the discussion environment. For example, you could also get there by clicking discussions. Okay, and now let's focus on the labs. So with the labs, you have to be using the table of contents. If you don't really get any of the instruction. So if you just use assignments at the top, right, then all you are landing on are the drop boxes. You're not landing on the actual instructions. So in order to do that, you go through the content. And then the first document in the lab folder is the instruction. You can expand this, you can print it, download it, open a document reader, whatever you want to do. Now we're having a couple of problems. In lab 1, the Hertzsprung-Russell diagram, I don't know why I always want to say H.R. Russell. Hertzsprung-Russell or HR diagram. You can open this page, but if you don't have Adobe, which not all devices support, it's going to be hard to get through this content. Furthermore, when you get down to part 2, this is a dead link, and although I can find the McGraw-Hill Dark Matter Interactive link, once I go through there, it's dead too. And so I'm feeling like we might have an old version of the lab published in our course, and I've asked the other folks who teach this class what they're doing to solve this problem. There's only one 10-week session, but there are other sessions that are going in the 15 weeks, so this problem should have already been resolved by other instructors. Just don't worry. Just if your mind can go with one of two options, we'll all be good. So option 1 is you have Adobe, no problem. You could do part 1, right? And you could go through part 1 and submit part 1 to the lab Dropbox, and then whenever I get part 2 squared away, you can finish that lab. Anyone and everyone is welcome to do that. Submit half the lab, right? If both of these issues of the Adobe is a problem and no one can get into part 2, I think probably the more prudent option is for folks to work on the next lab. And so we'll just work over here in the solar system lab. Now, this is a very fun lab. The HR diagram lab is just kind of a computer simulation, but this is about getting outside. And also, maybe this weekend is a great time for you to do this. Remember, you can always print this out, what you want to do for this lab, because you're going to go outside with this piece of paper and figure all this stuff out. So you need a bunch of different kinds of balls, and their relative size demonstrates the relative size of the planets, okay? And then you're going to carry those planets on a solar system walk. And essentially you're going to use your math skills to step it out, right? To walk the distance. So first you will measure your paces, measure your step length. and you'll do it a bunch of times and take an average, so you get a pretty decent average. And then you're going to go outside and you're going to make a circle 700 centimeters of yarn at one end. This represents the size of the sun. Okay, if you don't have that yarn, that's okay, of course. The sun could be your house or something like that. The sun could be the playground structure if you're in a playground. You don't have to do this little part here. And it seems like counting out 700 centimeters of yarn, although it might demonstrate the relative size of the sun, could take an inordinate amount of time. So you need a sun, okay? And then you're going to pace out the distance from the sun to each of the planets and take photos along the way. Don't forget to take photos, because that's what you're submitting in this lab to authenticate your effort. Okay? Now, question, is it going to fit in your field or not? This takes like a mile. Like, we used to do this in Buena Vista, walking along a county road. And so, are you going to be able to do it in your Parker field? A lot of students struggle with this, and so let me give you a way to figure it out. Obviously, you can go back and forth, like go in one direction, come back in another direction, go in another direction, and then you are zigzagging across your Parker field, taking the photos along the way, but you're not getting a real sense of what that distance is, right? Another opportunity for you here is to make your steps at a millimeter scale, and it's pretty easy to do that. You would just move this decimal point, right? And so or a decimeter scale or a meter scale, however you end up doing it, you move the decimal from the left to the right. And we just worked on that in the last lab, okay? And so you might want to change your scale if your area you're working with is very small. What you want to be able to experience for yourself is how actually close to each other the terrestrial planets are, and how really far away and really giant the gas giants are. That's the punchline of this, is that the way we see the solar system in our classrooms, with a little model with some balls on a tabletop model, it makes it look like the planets are all the same distance apart, but they're really not. And the other cool thing about this lab is you can do it anywhere with almost no equipment whatsoever. And I hope you do it this weekend if you decide to not worry about the HR diagram, and just move towards lab 2. That's what I think I would like for you to do. I also want you to think about these deadlines, okay? Look at how many there are, right? My goal for the 10-week session is that everyone gets through it, right? I am a good teacher. I would be a great kindergarten teacher. I want everyone to do the work. This isn't about me penalizing you. I want to make the space for you to do the work. So if it feels intense and little things like this cause hiccups in your mind and you need more time past the deadline, that is always fine. Do not worry. In the labs, that's always fine. In the labs, the late point deduction is 10% if you submit it late, or if there are issues like the ones we're talking about right now, no point deductions, because that's on us, right? There's something wrong with the course, and so we need to fix that, and you get the benefit of the doubt. So if you find any mistakes, it should not trigger your stress, it should trigger your relief, because if there are mistakes, then you will get the benefit of the doubt. The deadline will go away. You'll have more time. Okay? So, that being said, though, notice how many deadlines there are. It would be really easy for you to handle this in this way that I'm going to describe right now. Do all the November labs in 2 sittings, right? Do all the December labs in 1 sitting. Do all of these October labs in 1 or 2 sittings. So you're trying to accomplish 1 or 2 or 3 labs when you square away the time to do it. Because your mind gets more efficient when you do this. You've messed up your dining room table or whatever it looks like. You could set up a bunch of labs at the same time and work through them. Please try to stay ahead of these deadlines just for your own sake, okay? I'm also going to say with the quizzes, the same kind of advice. Getting off topic here. There's so many practice quizzes, right? And these do have release dates. So, you know, or they have, dates that they close, but they don't have release dates. So, you know, likewise, you could pick a few days and say, I'm working on this couple of quizzes on this day, not just one. And then with the discussions, you know, the more often you come, this is the opposite of what I just said. The more often you come, the more you massage your brain by helping it to handle this information we're talking about. Every time you bring this stuff into your working memory, you gain more neurons. You actually learn it better, right? So if you're going to do anything like every single day, even just for 5 minutes, I recommend that it's discussion. You'll get the most out of it, and discussion is 100% just show up, right? Make the effort. You will get full credit in discussion. I can't even really think of a time when I ever deducted points from the discussion, except when people were late or didn't show up at all. Sometimes, rarely, people just have like a low quality post, or they just clearly keep writing posts with their phones and they're not using like any punctuation. That kind of stuff will lose you points. But I never take points off for people not like exactly following these discussion prompts. You know, the conversation goes where it goes. And so just try to be there and be present. And so, last thing I'll remind you is that one of the cool things about this class is we have open source textbooks. And so, like right now we're in astronomy, and you can pull this page up into your phone, and while you're waiting for the bus, or you know, you're waiting at volleyball to pick up your kids, or whatever the case may be, you can just be looking at this on your phone even, because the textbook is digital, and also it's set up nicely. It's pretty easy to interact with. All these good hyperlinks. Good images. If you were like sitting at a sports game of your children's or something, then like literally just looking at the captions and the images would get you somewhere. Okay, probably enough about that. Let me know how I can help. Don't stress about the labs. Always be communicative. This is how I know when things are not working exactly how they should for everybody. Like, I probably wouldn't have really thought about how Adobe might be a hard reach for some people unless a student mentioned it to me. So thank you for all your communications. And let me know how I can help.